Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I just finished Stranger Things Season 4, Part 2 about 5 minutes ago. And holy crap. My main criticisms of Part 1 were the slow pace, taking so much time to set things up, and I always said that if Part 2 was good enough, it would more than make up for the slowness of Part 1. And I've got to say, Part 2 landed solidly and fully recouped any issues with the pacing in the Part 1. The pacing in Part 2 was incredible, really moved at a brisk pace. Everything was set up, it just needed to get to the action, get to the characters, and, resolve things as best as it did in this Part 2. And it was incredible overall. A lot of great character work, a lot of great action. Oh, the action was great. And I might be comfortable saying that this is as good as Season 1. Probably not better. I might need to rewatch Season 4 again to make a firm statement on whether or not it's as good as Season 1. But it is incredible overall, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it yet. It is just a masterclass in character writing, action, and world building. And I really enjoyed it so much. And I can't wait for Season 5. But before I get any further, there will be spoilers, so spoiler alert. Again, like I said earlier, my biggest problem with Part 1 was the slow pace of it. It was just taking so long to set things up. This part really moved at a brisk pace, good pace, no issues with that. And the ending was so good that I don't even care about the slow pace in Part 1. I'm more than happy to rewatch it over and over again just to get the payoff of Part 2. I was very, very happy with it. Now, one of the biggest things that some people were concerned about, this being Netflix and all, was Will coming out as gay. Now, they've set that up very well for him in the past few seasons that I think he is gay and I don't have a problem with it. I was just worried about if he did come out, that it would be mishandled. I had hope because Robin coming out as gay and her whole arc was very good. Her character, she was still very much a character beyond just being the gay one. She had a good character, and that's the distinction that I always like to make with gay characters. If they're just the gay one, it's ridiculous and bad writing, but she's a fully fledged character, and so is Will. And so when he brought out the painting and had his little speech, he said it was about 11, but it was really about him, in my opinion. He definitely painted that for Mike to come out and say that he was in love with Mike, but he repurposed it because he knew that was the best thing that Mike could hear at that moment. He needed to hear that 11 really cared for him, and that was what motivated him to keep going and keep going. So Will sacrificed his relationship with Mike, at least to the extent that he wanted it to, for Mike's own well-being. And that shows a degree of character depth and character maturity that, I'm not remotely concerned with their writing him gay. It was done very tastefully and very well, and I am looking forward to how he actually comes out to the other characters now, because they've set him up and set this up so well that I have zero issues with it at all. Another thing I didn't really like about Part 1 was Argyle's character. He was just too weird for me, I didn't really enjoy him, but he had a much smaller role in Part 2, and what he did was to the perfect amount, so I definitely liked Argyle more in Part 2 than I did in Part 1. He was just the right amount over the time. And my favorite relationship from Season 1 was Nancy and Steve. I loved them together. They were great. I was so mad when she got together with Jonathan instead of him, so I love that this season is setting up a potential for Steve and Nancy to get back together, especially with the thump on the head speech that Steven gave to Nancy in the Upside Down. That speech was a very good one, and it showed a bit of character honesty. Characters aren't often honest with themselves, and he was very honest with himself more than to Nancy. He was admitting yeah, I'm overconfident, but I'm an idiot at the same time. It was very well done. And he thanked her for giving him the thump on the head that he needed to become a better person. And I thought that was all very well done, and I very much enjoyed it. One of the most badass sequences in Part 2 was, of course, the resolution, the end fight, the plan that they put together. That plan was actually very good, very solid for a bunch of kids who had no resources to speak of. It was a very, very solid plan. They did need some help from both Eleven and Hopper and Joyce over in Russia to put it all together for it to work, but it was a really good plan. And Eddie ripping on that guitar to bring in the bats, that was a pretty great moment just overall. It was just really cool how it all came together and how they all reacted to the situation. The way that characters react to situations and how they behave and act is a great way to understand them as characters. And they all made some very interesting decisions that made you understand each of them better for it. So I really appreciated the character work that was very subtle for every single character involved, especially Eddie's redemption. He was always the guy who runs, and he decided not to run for once, and he was fully redeemed in my eyes. I thought he was a little bit over the top in part one. I liked him, but I didn't love him like everyone else was saying. This part two fully redeemed him for me, and I felt something when he died, and it was very personal and very well done. And I kind of sad that we're not going to see him again, at least most likely. He may come back in season 5. He had some comments beforehand that he said he didn't know if he was going to be in season 5, but he really wants to be, so maybe there's an opportunity for him to come back. I doubt it. They needed a death count at the end of season 4 to really sell it, so that was what needed to be done. And Mike's little speech that he gave to Eleven to give her the final boost she needed to beat Vecna, it could have come across cheesy to a lot of people. If it came across cheesy to you, I get that. But I felt like it was very much set up in part one. You know, how he was able to say, I love you, the Lois Lane conversation with Will. Like, it was tying in so much and so well set up that I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't think it was cheesy. I really enjoyed their relationship as well. And so I get why that speech was what was needed for Eleven to get the final boost in the battle with Vecna. I very much enjoyed it overall, and that was a great speech, great interaction, and paid off very, very well. Now, I've never liked the character of Max. I thought she was ridiculous, over the top, and honestly a bitch in seasons 2 and 3. I very much disliked her, but season 4 redeemed her more than I would have thought possible. She was incredible, and then her sacrifice at the end of part 2 was incredibly emotional, and she gave up so much to save the world, or at least try, and she was a good character at the end of the day, and her final moments with Lucas were heart-wrenching. I don't want to die. It's sometimes as simple as that, but it speaks to the character that you're connected with her enough to really feel that pain and that fear that she's going through in that final moment. And I thought she was actually going to die. I think it's kind of interesting that she's fully crippled. Like, that's almost a worse fate than actually dying, because yeah, all her limbs are broken and she's blind. That could be incredibly damaging to a person's psyche and may very well be worse than death. So it's a very interesting way to go with the character. And of course, we have to talk about that ending. It's the first actual cliffhanger of the series, and I don't know how they're going to move forward from here. The Duffer Brothers have come out and said that they are thinking about a time jump to age up the actors, fit with the kids growing up. I don't know how that's going to work all that well, because the war for Hawkins seems like it's actually happening now. I mean, I don't imagine a standstill for a few years with that gaping hole in Hawkins and the Upside Down pouring through. I imagine that they have to pick up right where they left off. I don't know how they're going to do a time jump. I don't know if that was just something to say. But at this point, I fully trust the Duffer Brothers to bring it home. They've really done a good job at setting up the beginning of the end, and hopefully the end is good enough. I still really am conflicted on seasons 2 and 3, but season 4 really makes up for that and ties in a lot of elements of 2 and 3 to make them better. So I hope season 5 does the same thing and wraps it all up, all 5 seasons, in a really nice bow, and solidifies this as one of the greatest shows Netflix has ever produced. But the ending is what's going to be key in that being the case. So they're in a very precarious situation, and any wrong decision can destroy the goodwill that they've gained from this incredible 4th season. So I do look forward to season 5, but I'm a little concerned, but I do trust them after the season 4. So jury's out, but I'm hopeful kind of situation. But I am very excited to see how it goes, because these stakes have never been higher. I mean, Hawkins has been torn apart and the Upside Down is pouring through. I don't know how any of the characters get out of this, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Little fan theory here at this point. I think Max's life is what's going to be precarious. Maybe the fact that she came back is kind of holding the gates in a standstill, and so as long as they're able to keep her in the coma, they're not fully able to come through, and maybe that's how they're going to create a standstill for the next couple of years to age up the actors. But maybe if they are able to wake her up from the coma, that'll shut down her portion of the gate and really condense things back down and suck the Upside Down back into itself. That's my theory, because yeah, it hinged on her death, and since she didn't die, it's probably very precarious. Now, her mind seems empty from Eleven's perspective, so if they can find her mind, reawaken it, and get her to wake up, I think that might be the way that they go forward. Maybe that's how season 5 is going to the final conflict is going to be, hey, we need to rescue Max's mind so that we can close her gate and close the other gates and trap Vecna back in there and probably kill him in the process. But I think that's how they're going to undo the gate situation, at least, if nothing else, is save Hawkins, save the world gate-wise from waking her up. That's just my personal theory. I definitely think that there's going to be something about Max waking up going to be an important part of it, because her death is what caused all this to a certain extent. So if her life may be exactly what's needed to save it. Be interested to see how it plays out. That's just a little fan theory I had at the end of it. But overall, I very, very much recommend season 4 now. I was a little hesitant to recommend part 1 until we saw how it wrapped up. But overall, season 4 is incredible. I very much recommend it. And I'd have to give it an 8 out of 10. I didn't think I was going to go this high. I thought at most 7, 7.5. But it fully deserves the 8 as it wraps things up so nicely. And I really hope season 5 can continue the quality that it's recouped after its, less than stellar seasons 2 and 3. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.